It will take a while.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
there
this
we go.
live streaming by YouTube?
Yeah, both. We are
Oh.
also recording, and there's a live stream on YouTube.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So we are all set.
Okay.
Can we begin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to Book Talk. I am Rajesh, joining you from Canberra at midnight. I moderate this session and welcome you all on behalf of the CRIS network, that is Consortium for Research on Innovation Studies. The CRIS network was formed in 2020 during COVID as a capability and competence building network for early career scholars, especially from the Global South. In today's book talk, we discuss Professor Keun Lee's latest book titled Innovation, Development Detours for Latecomers, Managing Global Local Interfaces in the De-Globalization Era. This book is published by Cambridge University Press in February 2024. You can download the online version of this book free of cost from the Cambridge University Press website. I'll put the link in the chat very soon. We are fortunate in having a distinguished panel today, along with the author, Professor Lee. We are joined by Professor Bengt-Åke Lundvall and Professor Arkebe Oqubay. Considering the structure of this panel, we will have Keun Lee speak about this book for about 20 minutes to begin with, followed by the two distinguished panelists engaging with the author in a probing conversation, which is not tightly structured, yet based on the major themes addressed in this book. After about 50 minutes of panel discussion, the forum will open for receiving questions and comments from the audience for about 20 minutes. We have planned for 90 minutes in total, but I'm not going to be too strict with time, leaving enough room for a relaxed and informal discussion. Now, I'll briefly introduce our panelists, starting with the author. I'll be very brief, as they are all well-known scholars, and you can check back on our webpage for the detailed biodata. Keun Lee is a distinguished professor in the Seoul National University and head of the Center for Comparative Economic Studies. And he's also the founding director of the Center for Economic Catch-up. He had won the 2014 Schumpeter Prize. Bengt-Åke Lundvall is Emeritus Professor of Aalborg University, Denmark. He introduced the concept of national systems of innovation along with Chris Freeman and Richard Nelson, and also ideas such as innovation as an interactive process, the learning economy, etc. He founded the Globalix network, and he is the patron of CRIS network. Arkebe Oqubay is distinguished scholar practitioner. He holds the British Academy Global Professor position at SOAS University of London. He has been a senior minister in Ethiopia and recognized internationally for his innovative and strategic leadership role in Ethiopia's economic transformation and for championing the country's pioneering industrial development model. Welcome all. Dear audience, please type in your well-framed questions in the chat box. I'll pick them up and call upon you to ask them for yourself later. Now, may I invite Professor Lee to speak about his book. Congratulations, Professor Lee, and please take over.
Okay. Thank you for nice introduction. Let me try to share my slide first. Okay. So I hope you now see my slide, right? Okay, yeah. So great. My book is Innovation Development Detours for Latecomers. And then this has been published just 1 month ago. But let me talk to this, my previous book first, 2019 book, The Art of Economic Catch-up, Barriers, Detours, and Leapfrogging. Here, barrier means several barriers from north, like including
Professor Lee, you are on mute. Can you
okay,
can you unmute?
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
You're still on mute. Yeah, now okay.
Okay. So my key argument is that because of barriers, we have to take a method of detours and leapfrogging. So Latecomers still catch up with the foreigners by taking detours, which means building capabilities, and also leapfrogging. So Ha-Jun Chang told that ladder is kicked away, but I can say that we don't need a ladder because we're going to fly on a balloon, which is leapfrogging, flying out of windows opportunity. Okay, so if you follow the path of incumbent, you need a ladder. But if you don't follow the path, we don't need a ladder. That's the one key argument of this 2019 book. Okay. In the book, I talk about 3 paradoxes of catch-up. First, to be similar, you got to be different. That means you start by imitating, but you got to eventually create new paths or try leapfrogging. Second paradox is that a straight road may be late, whereas detour can be faster, because highway is short distance, but it might be a traffic jam. You are jammed in the highway, then you'll be delayed. Where detour, there is nobody, then you can run faster. Okay. Third, you can fly through indoor opportunity, or you might fall through the windows, because that means you got to manage risk involved in leapfrogging. Simply, there is one big paradox is that you cannot catch up if you just keep catching up. Okay, so the first catch up means that overtaking reduces the gap between you and your incumbent, and second catch up means imitating. So imitation doesn't get you through the final goal. You got to innovate somewhere down the road. Okay. Then why we need another book? So in this book, the key new takeaway is that I said there are multiple pathways of development, not just manufacturing, classical important manufacturing, but there are non-manufacturing based catching up too. Okay. Also, it's not always linear, but it can be non-linear, which means that detours leapfrogging. Second, we need to manage this global local interface, openness dimension very carefully or strategically in de-globalization era. Otherwise, we might fail. So you got to be open, but openness does not guarantee your growth. You got to manage it with some strategic vision, which is to promote locally owned companies. Third, another new detour is introduced in the book, which is about role of government. Government role are not just linearly decreasing over time, over the development stages, but it might increase in the upper middle or middle income stages, because there are issues of how to overcome entry barriers to high-end segment. So these are the key messages, but I'll provide some elaboration. Yeah. So we are facing de-globalization era, starting from several stages, starting from 2008 global financial crisis, Brexit, US-China trade war since Trump, then pandemic is brought to production globalization. Then Russia-Ukraine war is further steps in deglobalizing agricultural trade, even the financial market transaction through SWIFT system. So I see key themes in this era of deglobalization. The issue is that new role of state or industrial policies, changing GBCs, and geopolitics. These are the important keywords characterizing new eras. In the book, so I raised several key questions and also answers. First is that most fundamental, which is that whether latecomers should follow or not the path of incumbent or advanced countries from. This is most fundamental question, but never much asked in conventional economics. So my answer is that you got to follow the path to learn, but at the later stages, you got to take detours or create your own path. Okay? Second question is that whether you should be open or not. Okay? If you open, you might be exploited. If you close, no access to knowledges. So we should be open. But we got to manage the openness dimension, global local interface strategically, so as to create locally owned companies, big business and SMEs. Okay. Third, between SME and big businesses, I would say maybe it's better economical to grow several big business first, then SME follows. I'll give you example from Korea, China. First, in terms of sectoral choices or specialization, not only manufacturing, but also services or some resource sectors can be a vehicle for economic growth by latecomers. I'll talk about Chile's example of growing based on wine, salmon, fruit, wood product. Malaysia, not just IT manufacturing, but they are doing very well in palm oil, rubber product, and petro product. Okay, so not a single linear pathway, but there are multiple non-linear pathways. There are many pathways for latecomers. Okay. Also, finally, Detour in rural government is that I can see there is a inverted U-shape. You know, the government role is small in the middle, low income stages, but rather increase in the middle, then later decrease. Why increase? Because you're facing more serious entry barriers in upper middle income stages. So you got to have some public-private joint R&D or other forms of innovation and industrial policies to break into the segment. These are key messages of the book. Okay. So this graph in figure 1.1 show this idea in terms of graphical. There are box of detour pathways, and detour 1 is global, local, global. Detour 2 is big business SMEs. Then Korea is an example of this motivating examples. Okay? And there are detour is short to long cycle technology. These are the content. Yes, I'll discuss pathways and global local interface, and there are chapter on Korea and chapter on rural government. So very briefly, first, multiple pathways. So non-linearity and multiple. So I think these are several models catching up. First, East Asia model is like a short cycle or IT manufacturing based growth. In India, we have a short cycle IT service based growth or creative industries. Then there can be a resource-based development, which is to be high value added and also export-oriented. That's the example of Chile and Malaysia. Then if you are a big country like BRICS, you can have some combination of this, not just one. Okay. In the case of Malaysia and Chile, Malaysia's manufacturing is somewhat middle-income trap situation, but they are growing very well, reaching more than 40% of US income level, which is already overcoming middle-income trap, not because manufacturing success, but more or less resource sectors such as palm oil, rubber, petroleum. In Chile too, Chile has more followed Washington consensus, free market, but in certain sectors, they did a lot very active industrial policies. Wine, fruit, salmon, it took many decades, and finally they succeeded in bringing them into high value added and export oriented. And all local ownership emerges. Okay? So this shows Malaysia's contribution to trade surplus. Same amount was by these three resource sectors as big as electronic sectors. So in this GBC disruption, de-globalization, the resource-based developments make more sense because we got to rely more on your own resources rather than too much relying on GBCs. Okay. Then in the chapter 2, I discussed there are several types of NIS which correspond different catching up or trapped NIS group. So in catching up NIS, I see there is a East Asian style short cycle imbalance catching up, whereas there is an Indian style medium cycle balance. Medium cycle means that India is strong in short cycle IT, also strong in long cycle pharmaceuticals. In the very unique cases, but not only India, but there's Russia and some other countries belong this group. So this graph of average cycle time of their pattern portfolio show that this East Asian path, very short cycle orientation. And advanced countries are long cycle, like Germany and so on, but this is balanced path, which is example of India's. So I say there are two paths. One is the balanced path, the other imbalanced path, which imbalanced path means Korea, Taiwan, China. Balance means like Russia, India, and Spain, and so on. There's a balance between manufacturing and services, and so on. Okay. Then in terms of global local interfaces, I give example from many countries. Okay, Taipei, Shenzhen, Penang, and also auto sectors in Malaysia, Thailand, China, and so on. Okay. Key message is that you got to join GBC, but to upgrade in the segment, you got to have certain type of industrial policies. I discussed that in terms of comparing auto sector in China, Malaysia, Thailand with reference to South Korea. So this is the backward linkage indicator of GBCs. So this is Korean cases. It keeps decreasing. That means Korea has been domesticating formerly imported high-tech component. Then after that, Korea globalized, joining GBC again because they are sending their factory abroad. And same pattern is happening to the Chinese cases. It's decreasing. That means they're increasing domestic value added. Okay? But if you just remain very high like Thailand, and that means you are keep importing the high-end goods from foreign, especially the auto sector case of Japanese. So the domestic value added is limited. So Thailand is a mixed success. It's okay, but not great. So Thailand is still example of middle-income trap. In other words, Malaysia also failed in auto sectors despite industrial policy because they have a local ownership, but no discipline for world market. And they didn't pay enough attention to innovation. They didn't localize engine transmission, whereas it happened in China and Korea. Mixed success Thailand because they relied on foreign ownership and limited value addition. China is more successful, quite similar to Korean cases. Then I discussed comparing Shenzhen, Penang with Thailand. And Shenzhen has about 10 years later start than Penang as a FDI special economic zone. But now Shenzhen is far advanced than Penang in terms of per capita GDP and so on. The reason is the innovation. A lot of innovation happening in Shenzhen, but not so much in Penang. And why this is so? One reason is ownership. This is who are the filing patent in the Taipei. This is Shenzhen, in Penang. Penang no progress in terms of local ownership of innovation. Shenzhen also 100% relied on FDI. Shenzhen quickly increased, promote locally owned company. That's why today Shenzhen is. Shenzhen is home to the Huawei and the BYD, electric vehicle makers, DJI drone companies. So they're all Chinese owned, although they learn from foreign companies initially. So the implication from these three cases is that you got to open, or you got to promote locally owned company. That's important matters. Then detour between big business and SMEs. I guess some of you know that there are two Schumpeters, young and mature. Young Schumpeter talk about startups or entrepreneurship. mature Shinpero talk about big business, which can pay for the large amount of R&D monies. So Shinpero talk about important both new startups, also big businesses. Okay? So for latecomers, which one should we focus? Okay, I guess simply because of facing resource constraint, we have to mobilize our resource into few number of big businesses. Let them grow first, then they'll serve as umbrella for many SMEs. Also, if you don't have a big business locally, your all startup will be acquired by foreign company like Google. Then it disappears out of your country. It's another brain drain. Okay, so you got to have a locally owned big business who can serve as a exit tool for startups, also a source for M&A and umbrellas. So this shows in Korea, under Samsung, Hyundai Motor, there are a couple of thousand SMEs playing as a suppliers. And many former startup CEO, founders are used to working in these big companies. Okay. And so, although Korea is home for very big business, Korea also doing well in terms of generating unicorns, similar amount of unicorns compared to European countries. And finally, in the role of government, I just said that, this is to promote startups in Korea by establishing secondary stock market so that startup can be easily listed and raising money from stock market. Different from primary stock market. We have also tertiary stock market, which is more available for the small companies. It shows how many companies and Kosdaq, is Korean version of Nasdaq, secondary stock market, compared to KSE, is regular stock market. Then we have some program promote SMEs, because it's called purchase conditioned R&D program. In other words, many SME apply doing R&D because there's no guarantee that big assembler company will buy from them. So this arrangement government, okay, if you do R&D produce something, it will be purchased by big business assemblers. So it's solving coordination failure by industrial policies. Otherwise, SME will not commit that much R&D monies. Yeah. This is very successful in Korean context. Then we have TIPS, which is incubator program, also very successful start. In other words, if your country is subject to market failures, SME startup doesn't grow naturally, you got to have some support. So I list some measures which can be successful in promoting startups into big businesses. Okay? So one matter is not number of startups, how to make them grow quickly into big business. That's the important issue. And they require some policy interventions. Okay, then I'll skip this. And the role of government, very simply, low-income stages, you don't need much government intervention because you follow just resource endowment. But upper middle stages, you face serious entry barrier into high-end segment. And you're facing many IPR dispute and so on. So that's why you need some intervention by public sectors to joint R&D or handling IPR dispute issues. So that's what happened to small calculator company in Taiwan long time ago. They are trying to make jump from making calculator to notebook. It's a big jump. And notebook architecture was developed by public sector research lab and diffused to small company in Taiwan so that they can make upgrading from making the desktop small calculator to notebooks. So this is what I mean by to upgrade in high-end segment product, you got to have a role by public research labs. Also, Samsung's memory chip businesses was based on public-private joint R&D to break into high-end advanced chips. Okay. So conclusion is that this book is providing alternative to prevailing ideas in economic development. First, there are not just one way. There are many possible multiple pathways, not just manufacturing, or several other sectors. As long as it is promoting locally owned company, it's okay. And these most successful catching up stories tend to involve maneuvering with some strategy, the global local interface. You got to open or manage it carefully to promote locally owned big businesses. Okay. Then this creation of growth pole are possible not just by free market, but by active policy intervention, managing interaction of sectoral, regional, national, firm level innovation system. Okay, so finally, instead of traditional priority on manufacturing, I would say priority on local ownership, locally owned company and innovation. It's okay as long as it is locally owned, innovative. It doesn't matter whether it's manufacturing or resource sectors or services or agriculture, whatever. Okay. So thank you. That's it. Okay.
Thank you, Professor Lee, for that succinct summary. Now we go to the panel. So for efficiency's sake, we have received a few questions from the two panelists in advance, which we have categorized into 4 broad themes that the book has dealt. That means we will have 4 rounds of discussion from the panel. So these 4 rounds are around catching up in the context of developing and developed economies, de-globalization versus hyper-globalization, successful strategies in the post-globalizing phase, and finally the broad picture, relation with advanced economies and the geopolitics, etc. So we can have around 10 minutes for each rounds. We have 50 minutes for put together. So around, please try to limit to 10 minutes per round. So the first round, catching up in the context of developing and developed economies, I call upon Professor Arkebe to start with. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you very much, Rajesh, and thank you for the invitation. First, I would like to highlight the importance of this new book, which I see a continuation and further elaboration of the art of economic catch-up, but also with more practical insight and geographic coverage. I would like to highlight the contribution of Professor Keun Lee in economic catch-up in terms of conceptual relevance, but also in terms of practicality and highlighting also the productive role of the state. In terms of methodology, I find the book quite important because it tries to combine the practitioners and theoretical perspective, but also not only talking about Korea, but also talking about China, which is the lead from emerging economies, and also other developing countries, including in Africa. And I believe this book will provide additional stimulus for new research areas and also debates. On this occasion, I also would like to highlight contribution of Professor Keun Lee to some of the works we have been doing with our publication at Oxford University Press. The 2 questions I would like to raise to Professor Lee is, the first one, you may have had you have made a significant contribution to development economics and neo-Shamterian perspectives. How do you summarize the evolution of your breakthrough thinking on the perspectives and the art of economic catch-up over the last 2 decades? And what are the leading issues that guide future research? If I may also raise an issue related to this, is the global economic landscape is shifting as we all observe. For instance, Asia has surged as an engine of world economy, with China being exemplary emerging economy. what are the implications for accelerating innovations and technological capabilities of emerging and developing economies? Thank you.
Rajesh, should I answer or should I wait for Pal or?
Sure. Please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Arkebe, pointing out important issues. Actually, my previous book, the 2013 book, focused on sectoral choices or specialization issues like short cycle, long cycle. But later in my study on the comparing Shenzhen and Penang and Taipei, I realized that these three cities all specialize in short cycle. But performance quite different between Shenzhen versus Penang. And the source of difference is coming from eventual rise of local ownership in Shenzhen versus no such rise of local ownership in Penang. Penang keep relying on MNCs. So Penang is mixed success in the sense. So I thought that not only these sectoral choices, but how to bring up locally owned company eventually, that seems most fundamental variable determining long-term success of Latecomer catcher. That's my important evolution over century. Okay. And regarding this lot of changing context, geopolitics, or de-globalization period, this idea of the importance of local ownership, local innovation system is makes sense. It's better fit in terms of this de-globalization because you got to rely more on something from local on your territories rather than relying on abroad or too much on the GBCs. So in that sense, my idea of this importance of local ownership is timely in terms of this changing global landscape. Okay? Yeah.
Professor Bengt-Åke.
Okay. First, I think this book has many great qualities, and it has potential to give rich inspiration for scholars and policymakers interested in innovation and economic development. I would just like to point to one characteristic which I think could be very inspiring for younger scholars, and that is your method, the way you combine some experience-based learning from your own history in Korea. You combine that with historical material from other parts of the world, and you combine it with the use of quite advanced econometric analysis. I think for young scholars today, very often there is strong pressure to publish not books, but papers. And papers often become focused on using a very narrow set of quantitative methods. I think this kind of mixed method, I think, is one very important positive quality of your work. One question I would like to ask you, I mean, we have discussed catching up in the Global X network through a series of years, and not everybody in the network are happy with the terminology. They actually think that catching up indicates that poor countries should establish the same kind of unsustainable development as have characterized the currently rich countries. And I wonder how you how you reflect on that.
Okay. Thank you, Bengt-Åke. And yeah, you discussed several points, but the final question is about the use of the catching of concept. As I discussed in different occasions, also today, I use catch-up only to refer to the gap between latecomers and foreigners. And catching up means that closing the gap. Then that require doing something different from incumbent. That's my basic ideas, or catch-up paradox. You cannot catch up if you just keep catching up, okay? So my emphasis is on trying something different from incumbent, okay? So that including pascalation or detours or leapfrogging, okay? So, but even early day, you start from following the path or by learning from incumbent or by imitating. But if you just keep doing that, you'll always be on the incumbent, okay? And also you'll need the ladder open, your ladder open keep the way. So that's why you have to do something different from incumbent to seek niche in different areas or sectors or so on. Otherwise, you cannot sustain your growth momentum, or you cannot go into high-end segment. Okay, so for me, entry barrier is more important concept. Okay, so economics don't talk about entry barriers from Lacan point of view. Okay, entry barrier is that's why I talk about the concept of cycle time. Short cycle means low entry barriers. Okay, and then the creative disruption or time for major disrupt innovation is all time for entry barrier suddenly getting lower. Okay, so this is a window of opportunity. So latecomers should mobilize several diverse strategies to sustain growth, to seek entry point in already established global division of labors. And that require strategy, policies, or risk take. Okay. Otherwise, you'll be in the middle income trap.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Should I
Keun.
take my next
Yeah.
question?
Sure.
In the first chapter, you discuss different factors, and you also talked about it in your presentation here, different factors leading to what you call de-globalization. And this includes, and I think perhaps the most important element, is the geopolitical conflict, where the US tries to block China's progress in strategic technologies. And on this background, I would like to ask you two questions. What are the implications for these developments for low and middle income countries' development strategies? One of my own thoughts is that small countries might be too weak to negotiate reasonably good deals in this new climate. Do you agree that this opens up a need for new association of nations like African Union or similar things? This is one of my questions. You use the history of South Korea as inspiration for your theory. That's my other question. To what degree has the successful catching up of South Korea been facilitated by geopolitics historically and the alliance with the US as a world lead economy? Two different questions.
Thank you. So broadly, this geopolitics important variables in every economic policy making in many countries, because we all affected by political economy of domestic or international context. So in Korean case too, early days, as Japan benefit from Korean War for their rapid growth in the 50s, Korea benefit from Vietnam War in 70s. And also US has an important role for serving as an export market. But as Korea keep growing, getting close to frontier, US took many measures to force Korean market open to US interest. So it's not just simple support, but also rising competition happened between Korean companies and US companies too eventually. So that's why you got to create something on your own so that you can defend your interest against possibly emergently rising US interest. US push a lot to open Korean market. So I think this principle apply again and in new context more importantly, because that means every country should be able to grow their national champions. Okay, so if you compare China, India, early 2000, China India has both as less than 5 global Fortune 500. Nowadays, China has more than 135, more than US, but India has only 8. Whereas the unicorns, India does very well, almost number 3rd, US, China, Addis, India. So India is doing better in startups, but very little in big businesses. Very strange asymmetry. Okay, and India should overcome this asymmetry. Otherwise, India startup all acquired by foreign company, serving as a knowledge for Silicon Valley, rather than serving local Indian local economy.
Okay, thank you.
Professor Arkebe?
Yeah, my question is related to this particular point on globalization. As we know, I mean, despite the setbacks and the slowdown in recent years, which has been also accompanied with poly-crisis in terms of COVID-19 pandemic, China-US tensions, geopolitical crisis. In development economics and international political economy in particular, there is perspective which highlights that there is no actual de-globalization, except that the hyper-globalization element has been tampered. What is your perspective on the implications for industrial and innovation policies and development strategies for emerging and developing economies? And what about the theoretical perspectives and in terms of conceptual debates? And if we say deglobalization as a continuing pattern, are we referring as irreversible trend of globalization?
That's a very fundamental variable we have to consider in setting up our economic policies and strategy. And people have some debate about whether there is really end of globalization or is a re-globalization or de-globalization or not. And people discuss in terms of the share of trade, FDI to global GDP, and there's some people only temporary stop. Okay, that's maybe some views, but I think this current situation is more than just shown by those quantitative data. We are facing qualitative changes, which is the split of GBC, US-led GBC versus China-led GBC. Okay, so this is most fundamental changed variable. Okay, so that means that no more free trade. Is a lot of the alliance-based GBCs or trade and so on. So that means big challenge for all of us. It's kind of second best. So we are suffering from higher cost of producing goods. That's one source of inflation in many countries. That means great source of inefficiency in every country. So some Korean company really benefiting from this US-China tension, like Samsung, and so on, because US stopped China catching up in semiconductors. That means Samsung has more years to be a leading company. Otherwise, China will be soon catching up with Samsung in semiconductor too. So Samsung is happy in a sense. But overall, Korean economic GDP last year was less than Japan, less than US, only half of global average. It's amazing. That means we are suffering from macroeconomic sense, although some companies are making the better job in this tension. So anyway, so I have to say there is a really fundamentally qualitative change beyond what is shown by temporary decrease of this trade FDI GDP ratios, I think.
Thank you.
And US is all embracing industrial policies, which they used to criticize. I gave a talk in IMF about industrial policies. It's amazing. IMF invited me because every client country IMF all trying industrial policy. They're asking for advice from IMF. I have no ideas what to say about industrial policies. And they arranged another seminar in Saudi Arabia for me to give a talk in industrial policy experience of Korea in Saudi Arabia. There are more than 100 audience in IMF when I give a talk.
So thank you. We are moving on to the third round, strategies from the developing world. So we have saved a few minutes in the previous cycle, so we can have a more relaxed discussion. No worries. We are good on time. So Professor Bengt-Åke, please.
You argue that there are some general factors, you call them shortcuts, that help countries to catch up. And among those are what you call managed openness, building big national global enterprises and promoting short cycle technologies. At the same time, you argue that there are alternative pathways, and you gave some examples in your introduction with natural resource-based development. Could you find an example where a country has combined these general factors with a pathway which radically differs from Korea's? That's the first part of my question. And the other one, could there be room for a greener and more sustainable pathways? Because this is, of course, a major issue in our days with climate change and so on. So these are my next questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So as a Korean, I really seeking the successful pathways different from Korean style, actually. Yeah. Well, I was very happy to some such case in Malaysia and Chile, and they are not IT manufacturing, but as I mentioned, some resource sectors such as palm oil in Malaysia and wine and salmon in Chile. And the palm oil case very important, interesting. Malaysia used to export unprocessed or low added palm oil. Then the national government policy tried to promote processed high added palm oil to the outside market. And when they start exporting to European market, UK charged tariff against the Malaysian processed palm oil, whereas no tariff at all for the unprocessed palm oil. So discouraging export by value added. So Malaysian effort was to charge export tax against unprocessed palm oil export. This discouraged that. Also, they did a hostile takeover British tree plantation company in London stock market. Hostile takeover. using that public money of Malaysia. So this ended all the debate. So that's the beginning of more nationally owned palm oil sectors in Malaysia. Very interesting. And then they start paying more to R&D innovation to make it really scientifically sound and more innovation based. And now they're trying to make it more environmentally friendly, because there are some criticism against palm oil damaging to some environment. So this is a really interesting case of industrial policies making headway into high value added and using innovation. And Chile cases of the wine and salmon oil same, they all used to be started by the foreign joint ventures. They learned from foreign countries in how to grow salmon and wine and so on. Salmon was not natural fish in Chile Sea. It was scientifically started to be cultivated. Very interesting scientific discovery, scientific innovation. Okay? And so they learned from foreign countries, and eventually there will rise of locally owned companies. Very interesting case. So I think this should happen more countries in global south. For example, I talk about the coffee industry. Many countries, emerging countries, Brazil and all export unprocessed coffee, but it should be a process of branded coffee. Okay, but there is also tariff from North, tariff against processed coffee, but no tariff against unprocessed coffee. Very interesting situation. Okay, so I said that maybe they should form a cartel like oil because they are the major producers of coffee beans. Okay, or they might acquire the coffee brand makers from North. So. And eventually, the African countries should export chocolate rather than cocoa, should export cheese rather than milk, export wine rather than grape, so many things. These are all the high-value added and all owned by European companies. It's not manufacturing, traditional. It's all grounded on their natural resources. Okay, so these are very promising areas. So when I talked about this, India also grows coffee. They love these ideas, how to make the coffee, branded coffee. In Ethiopia too. Ethiopia is home of the coffee.
Okay,
Did
thank
I
you.
miss something?
No, it's okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Professor Arkebe.
Yeah, I would like to bring my question to the current ongoing developments. As we know, the US is now putting a very aggressive industrial policy through Inflation Reduction Act, which is Biden's flagship program, and also the Bilateral CHIPS Act. And this brings us to an issue, what the relationship and synergy between developing innovation capabilities and industrial capabilities is, considering the recent shift in industrial policies in the US. And I'm raising this point, Professor Lee. During our meeting in London, we were discussing about the new Samsung investment in Texas, which is being implemented in a different ecosystem. And on the other side, we also see Europe, which looks with too much tension in terms of industrial policy design and focusing also on the market mechanisms. I would want to understand how this could be contrasted with the strategic approach followed by Korea and China. And the US and the European Union are also forcing foreign firms to invest in manufacturing and R&D capabilities locally. How is it going to affect economies like China or Korea, both representing emerging and advanced economies, that they need to put away or to implement or develop their R&D capabilities also outside their home market? I would want to understand your perspective.
First of all, I have to say that the current industrial policy by US, such as tariff and subsidy, is actually the example of policy we have to criticize because it might be a zero-sum game. Yeah. In other words, there might be a tariff war, and there might be a subsidy war. It's happening. Europe is following US, similar to the IRA and CHIPS Act. And Korea is no more supporting Samsung. It's politically impossible. But now Korea to match the US because Korea public said, oh, all companies going abroad to US. What's left in Korea? So we have to provide also starting for incentives to build more factory in Korea too. So it's a kind of the really zero-sum game, or it's kind of mutually upsetting, mutually destroying war. So US is setting a very bad example. If US should do, in other words, tariff and subsidy all the industrial policies. Korea moved away from them, move into public-private joint R&D. And that's what US should do. Utilize their technological superiority resources, they should target next generation semiconductor, next generation battery to develop new technologies rather than trying to attract existing facility from abroad. Okay, yeah. But anyway, giving this huge incentive by US government, Korean companies investing heavily into US territory. So Korea investing more than whole Europe. I have data from Financial Times. In terms of a certain size project, Korea invested 20 projects US, whereas whole EU has 15 projects. So Korea is shifting away from China to Europe. So that's why Korea is starting to have a trade deficit with China, but trade big surplus with the US, because trade follow FDI. Korea FDI exit from China, moving into US. So Korea trade follow Korean location of FDI. So it's big changes. Okay. So in other words, and US become again #1 trading partner of Korea. It used to be China for the last 10 years. But US came back again as #1 trading partner. So this big change is very important. So this changing GBCs affecting third countries, like benefiting Mexico and Vietnam, because companies exit from China located in Asia, Vietnam, or located in Mexico. So they have become biggest recipient of FDI flows. Okay. So we are now seeing very important radical change of GBCs. Okay. Yeah. And that means new opportunity for like Mexico or some other emerging countries other than China. In the sense, it's a good time for other countries, in a sense. But they got to utilize them to eventually promote their locally owned value chain and so on. And Vietnam government is keen idea of this. They know that they have to bring up more local value, more high value added. Vietnam is very pushing on this agenda. Because they already studied all Korean experience before. So. I'm not sure what's happening in Mexico. Maybe Alenka, we might get to go about what's happening in Mexico. How to do with all those incoming FDI flows. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we are moving to the last round, geopolitics. So Professor Barnes, please.
We have had this discussion before, and I would like to hear your comments to it. The fact that the US-China conflict is focused on advanced chips and artificial intelligence. And actually both the US and China the leaders in the respective countries act as if artificial intelligence is a strategic technology in relation to China catching up with the United States. And then I would like to ask you, I mean, is artificial intelligence really a short cycle technology. I think a key message you have is that catching up is very much about moving into short cycle technology. As far as I know, artificial intelligence has been on the agenda at least since the Second World War. But of course, it has been made much more critical and dynamic by a series of innovation in complementary technologies. So, what is your comment to that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I have a paper examining the key technology of this fourth revolution, the AI, big data, and so on, in terms of three criteria. In other words, cycle time, originality, and generality. Originality means that if technology based on knowledge from very wide field, we call it more original technology. And generality means that if you have impact on very diverse field, if you impact, forward impact, that's more general ideas, technology. AI is not short cycle, as you mentioned, it's long cycle, longer than other key technology of fourth revolution, but AI mostly highly original and highly general. There is a big impact, and you have source from many diverse fields. That means AI can be high entry barrier technology. It's not easy for latecomers to take up, maybe except China. China is doing very well in AI technologies. So China is the only country who are competing with the US in terms of developing AI, especially in semiconductor chips. The new chips required for AI is HBM, high bandwidth chips. But this HBM does not require EUV. EUV is the monopoly machine by ASML and Dutch. And China cannot import EUV at all because of US restriction. But some are lucky to China, this HBM, which is AI chips, doesn't require EUV. It's a different method. You can use DUV. All generation machine can develop the HBM. So I have examining pattern data, and China is doing very well, filing many patents, US patent in HBM, where they are still behind in DRAM or logic chips and so on. So very interesting. We'll see what will happen to China's catching up or leapfrogging in AI technology. Also, AI requires big data, so China is strong. So I think although China might be delayed in catching up in traditional advanced chips, but AI chips, China makes some progress, I guess. Yeah. We'll see. Although it's not that simple. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So the point is that the cycle time it's not it's really about entry barriers. Okay, so I use the cycle time to measure entry barriers. Entry barrier can be also discussed in some other dimensions. So we have to think in terms of entry barriers, not necessarily cycle time itself, I think. And the IT services is also short cycle. That's what India does better. Okay. And many emerging countries grabbing IT services as new growth engines because low entry barriers, highly promising. Okay.
Thank you.
So, Professor Arkebe.
Yeah, my final question will be focusing on the two critical drivers of economic catch-up. One is the state, which may play different roles in different sectors at different stages. And the second one is the, let's call them national champions. So what has shifted in the role and nature of the state and its relationship with national champions over time in Korea, China, and advanced economies that have significant lessons to economic catch-up and global competitiveness? The type of national champions may be different, and obviously is different among these countries' economies. Korea has the advantage of two large firms, actually extraordinarily concentrated resources in these giant firms in Korea, which have pushed innovation frontier and also export capabilities. What has been its downside regarding wealth distribution and the risk of too big to fail as well? Is there a midway that can maximize benefits while containing the significant risks? Thank you.
Thank you. So if we go back to the first question of this de-globalization, so if globalization over, who is coming back? It is state. Government is coming back in place of globalization. So globally, almost every country, we see more role by government to industrial policy, innovative policies. So our challenge is to sort out the more concrete mode of operation by government in the policies. That has to be more studied. Okay. In my book, I did some, but we need more study in different contexts in different countries, because depending upon your resource endowment and your relative advantages, the role of government might be different. At least in over different sectors, the intervention should be different. So and we should do more research on this more specific mode of government. Also, the democracy versus authoritarianism is classical debate. In other words, democracy does not guarantee economic growth, as happened in as experienced by East Asia shows. But all high-income countries are democratic countries. That means we have to do this process of democracy in somewhere down the road. And but now they see there is a growing kind of less confidence about democracy. Many countries nowadays we have strongman style leaders as president, not only in the emerging countries but also advanced countries. So it's a big problem. What's the relation between polity and economics? Very important challenges in this new landscape. Okay, yeah. In the Korean cases, big 재벌 has served as an engine of growth. Of course, it has problems. So all the Korean CEO of founder 재벌 more or less once served in the jail. We put very heavy pressure, heavy monitoring over them. Okay, so all the Samsung, Hyundai, they all served once in a while in the jail because of a lot of the tight social monitoring over their behaviors. So they are now in the behaving much better because of this pressures and countervailing forces. Okay? And they get pressures to promote more community services and contribution to societies. Okay, so and the economic policy-wise, it's politically impossible to support big businesses in Korea. But it's coming back only because of US and new changing environment. Korea support only SME startups, all government money going to there. But now, because of this changing environment, the supporting for big business is getting less, the criticized than before, because we have to compete. Okay, so that's the situation happening nowadays. So if I follow this role of government should be inverted U-shape, so that means high-income government role should be decreased. But Korea, in the case, not much decreasing. I'm now in Korea, I support more market forces actually. Too much resource still hand of government bureaucrat. It's not good actually. But it's not coming back for every country. It's a very strange situation.
Thank you.
So any more question from the panel? We have saved a lot of time. So we have been, yeah.
Enough time. Actually plan the time, 20 minutes, right?
We have a lot of time. So from the panel, if the panel wants to make comments, anything, but let us now open the forum to the audience. We haven't received any questions on the chat. So audience, please feel free and open up your mic and speak simply. Yeah, Professor Latecomers Singh, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rajesh. First of all, my hearty congratulations to Keun Lee for writing a wonderful book. And the panelists are also to be congratulated for asking very deep questions, which are quite relevant for the public policy making in the developing countries. I have one or two questions to ask to Professor Keun Lee. The first question I would like to ask Professor Keun Lee is that you are largely talking about patenting and catch up. Do you think that the R&D is related to the patenting, or you'll find that patenting is coming out of from learning by doing in the catch-up process? So this is very important to understand whether it is the patents are coming from the R&D investment, or it is largely coming from learning by doing. The second very important question I would like to ask from my point of view is that you have been talking about the state intervention more required when the country is moving to a middle income group. My understanding is that the various economic activities are at a very different stage of economic development. Sometimes the low income country or low middle income country have some high-end industries where government support is required. So do you think that it is a generalized opinion from your book that the middle income, until we are not reaching to the middle income, the state is not going to intervene and depend upon the foreign investment and all that? But I think that the stage of various economic activities is not the same. So do you think that we need to adopt, or state need to adopt, a differential policy regarding that? Thank you.
Thank you. The second one is more important. So let me handle that. Let me try to handle that one first, because yeah, so when I said this inverted U-shape of government intervention or upper middle stages, the real essential point is that you need more intervention policy government when you try break into high-end segment. So the high-end segment, that's more important keyword than just level of the income level, in other words. Because of a country like India, very special, so big. We have high-end, low-end, everything. So it's difficult to say what's the role of government in terms of amount, small or less. So more correct to say that you got to help from public sectors to break in high-end segment. It doesn't happen easily. That's the experience of the entry by the Chile in terms of high-end segment of value chain of wine industry and salmon industry and palm oil and rubber in Malaysia. All there's consistent, long-time effort by public sectors, jointly the private sector, develop their own innovation and so on. Without that, such break into high-end segment is not happening naturally. And India now trying hard diverse forms of intervention and to break into high-end segment. It's natural, although India is still low middle income countries and so on.
Thank you very much. We have a question from Professor Mamo Muchi.
By the way, I didn't answer first on the pet. Of course, R&D, if there are R&D, of course, it leads to patent, but not always. If R&D leading into innovation comprising technologies, and technology often cannot be patentable. So it might not showing a patent, but just still important innovation remaining as a trade secret or in-house knowledges, but not necessarily patent. So you got to be careful in using patent as a measure of innovation. Some knowledges are not patentable, right? Yeah. Especially those learning by doing based and so on. Yeah. There's already a challenge using patent. Yeah.
So Professor Mamo?
Mamo?
Can I, Professor Mama, are you here? Can you just unmute yourself and ask the question, or I can read it out? Yeah, Mama is asking, why are African states that have huge resources like the DRC, Congo, are in a state of endless conflict instead of adding to the value chain and supply chain to achieve whatever they want to achieve, equal status with tigers, etc. How good real research is done to discover how to resolve these issues and resources which Africa can achieve? So this is the question.
I don't know much about Congo, but my guess is that it's issue of political governance or political stability, right? And also its nature of government, whether how much is nationalistic or the serving foreign interest. So without more independent national governance, the resource is source of conflict, source of the tension rather than source of the wealth, right? So you got to have a strong nationally based independent government serving their national interest rather than serving foreign interest. So it could be even authoritarian government as long as it's serving national interest. Yeah. Rather than democratic government serving foreign interest. I guess Mama knows the answer. You just asking me.
May I use 1 minute
to
reflect on this? Yeah, again, what we learn from here is not that what is important is not the resources each country has, but the critical role of strategy and policy. There needs to be the political ambition. And here I would like to add, we have DRC with resources, but we also have like Morocco, which has one of the biggest nitrate resources globally. And what makes it different is Morocco has, through its enterprise large firm, OCP, which is state-owned for over a century old company, has been able to build industrial capability with that, and even now moving on this green ammonia, while the situation in DRC is different. So again, here, it's the same lesson from what Professor Keun Lee has been able to reflect in his important book.
Yeah, Morocco has also a very strong leadership by king, right?
Yeah, I mean, the state is quite playing an important role, and it also equally applies to the development of alternative industry, which is now becoming number one in terms of export capability in the continent.
Yeah. More questions? Sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Alenka?
Is it okay that I say something?
Sure, Professor. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
No, I apropos the question from Professor Lackwinder and the last intervention, I am not completely convinced about the U-formed intervention of the state. I think in the current geopolitical situation, where you have kind of focus on strategic natural resources, etc., I think the state might need to play a very important role in low-income countries if they want to not end up as dependable. And I think this is what we just heard before. The problem is that every single nation state is small and weak. And I think this raises a question which I indicated before. Could you imagine that small less developed nation states join forces in organizations such as the African Union or regional collaboration to become stronger in what becomes more and more important, negotiating terms with the rich countries. This is what I think is one consequence of what you refer to as de-globalization.
I agree. Yeah. Agree. Yeah. Maybe Alenka? Maybe.
Yeah, please.
Dear Keun Lee, I congratulate you for your effort in characterizing the different patterns that countries takes in the catching up process according their different national innovation systems. I ask the following question. Considering the taxonomy of the national system of innovation, the firms of each country, how to locate the interaction of the firms of certain countries in the technological confluence in the international context beyond the national policies, which make the firm successful in the context international, but does not reflect in the economic development of their countries. What do you think about that?
I think that some companies are doing well in international market, but not much contributing to domestic economy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. How can explain that firms of some countries can interact with the top firms and can be successful, but it is not reflected in their countries?
I guess maybe you're talking about some company with linkage to through FDI to foreign market or foreign flagship companies. So they are part of the foreign flagship company led GVCs, but with less linkage or less spillover to domestic value chain or economy. And that's the typical problem in many emerging countries or global south. So I mentioned several cases that although we like that at the early stages, some countries, some company made success of moving beyond that stages to getting more domestic value added and upgrading. And that didn't happen naturally, but there was a Polish intervention. That's what lacking in the many countries. Penang, there are intervention, but their policy vision was not including promotion local company. They only talk about providing better human capital and skilling and so on, so that they can still hold MNCs. So Penang is good, but not great success compared to Shenzhen. Shenzhen has an idea of promoting local company, whereas Penang just provides better training their workforce so that MNC stay still in Penang area despite rising wages. So Penang is overcoming a middle-income trap, but some are limited in value added. But I talked to some people in Penang recently. They said they are doing now much better. They are really working hard to promote more local value addition. So the Penang people also know that these issues. And Mexico maybe also should have this in mind. In other words, Mexico is very closely linked to the US in terms of GVC, but it's good, but you got to have eventually create more domestic value added in high-end segment. That's challenge facing Mexico, I guess. And maybe that's why reason you raised this point, I guess, right? Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Alenka. We have 3 questions from Professor Bhaskaran on the chat. Please, Professor Bhaskaran, go ahead, ask the question.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you for organizing such a wonderful event, and congratulations, Keun, for this timely, very important book for understanding multiple, strategies and pathways for economic development, catching up strategy. My question first is, how possible it is for small economies in Global South to follow the strategy of building big businesses, national champions first, and then focus on SMEs subsequently. Then I have 2 geopolitical questions. You already discussed about China, USA. Let me ask you specifically, will US ban on microchips export to China stifle and cripple China's advancement, or it will fail sooner or later? What is the significance of either scenario? The second question is, are we moving towards bifurcation of high-tech financial sectors globally, led by the collective West on the one side and the BRIC Plus on the other side? Thank you.
Okay. The first question, depending upon how small you mean, I don't know, but small European company has some big business belonging to Fortune 500. Also, I don't know how you classify Taiwan as small or big, but Taiwan has more than almost 10 Fortune 500 companies. Right? So more than Thailand, actually, more than Malaysia. So some country produce more big business than predicted by their country GDPs. That's my measure of big businesses. Okay? You should be more than, of course, because country size determine the size of your company. But some country does more than that. Korea also example, Korea, Thailand, all above the residual, the prediction by GDP, they do more big business than the country size predicted. Okay, so small country have their possibly have like Switzerland, it's small country, but they have many globally successful companies. Okay, so of course the infrastructure condition different between those small country in Europe, small country in Global South, but if you just talk about size is not the absolute determining factors, I would say. Yeah. If you take long-term views. Because China used to have only 3 in the past, only 3. Although they have now 130 more. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. China less than Taiwan, or less than Thailand in the past. But country Global South, they open very promising startup acquired by foreign company like Google. Google acquire 1 company per week, then kill half of them remain inside their Google empires. So many emerging countries are facing another form of brain drain by M&A of startups. That's why you need to have some big company to acquire the domestic startups and stay there.
Thank you. Now we have another set of questions from Mama. Mama, can you open up your mic and speak? So Mama's question is, how can catching up and leapfrogging be done without R&D?
So where is Mamo? He only write and disappear. Okay, let me try to read his comment.
Yeah.
Maybe, as mentioned by Rakinda, there are diverse forms of non-R&D based innovation and learning by doing and so on that might be suitable for some country in Africa. And then if we say from Korean experience, we got to provide initially public R&D when private R&D is very weak, public R&D. So you got to set up using state resources to set up public R&D institute. and they can be initial the R&D hub and the teaching role for later emergence of private R&Ds. Okay. And in this area, maybe open innovation might help. Open innovation and open to it might bring some international public R&D unit come to your territories. Some unit affiliated to UN or others. Okay, there are some examples, right, in the rice variety development in the past. So, okay. Maybe that's it because he's not here.
So, any more questions from the panel or the audience?
Maybe time to end.
Okay. So, yeah. Anybody? If not, I think we can wind up this session. This has been a fantastic session. We had a high voltage panel and well balanced from both academia and practical policy relevance. A rich discussion around a very important book, which is fresh out of press. Thank you very much for everyone. Now, there's a little small announcement. I'll put it in the chat as well. We have this conversation in the event on the conversation series that we are running coming up on 20th. We are presenting a conversation between Mark Dawson and Andrew Davies. So it is on 20th. The link, the registration link is in the chat. So please feel free to register and participate in this program. So with this, I would like to conclude. Thank you all. Thanks again to the panel. And thank you for joining us at this hour. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks to Rajesh for
thank you all. Thank you.
continuing doing this very important book.
Congratulations, Keun Lee, for the book.
Yeah.
Thank you. I had technical problem. Thank you very much.
I didn't answer your second question. I have a paper on this semiconductor, separate paper. I'll send you.
Okay.